Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I take the floor to offer my support and approval for the motion by the Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Economic Development, the Youth Economy, Justice, and National Security. Be it resolved that the Honorable House of Assembly do adopt the report of the Standing Finance Committee on the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the financial year 2025-2026 in the sum of $2,057,519,900 as a charge against the Consolidated Fund and other funds of the State of St. Lucia. Mr. Speaker, as I offer my reflections on the estimates of revenue and expenditure for 2025-2026, I am pleased to note that this is the fourth estimates of revenue and expenditure that the Minister for Finance has tabled in this Honorable House. And it is clear, Mr. Speaker, that the fiscal, financial, and economics guru, the Honorable Member for Castries East, has delivered a series of brilliant budgets, causing the economy to transition seamlessly from fiscal and financial distress, characterized by the highest recorded deficits and unprecedented debt levels, with the economy perched on a fiscal cliff, to one of fiscal stabilization, fiscal consolidation, and fiscal buoyancy. Mr. Speaker, the 2025-2026 estimates of revenue and expenditure provide a compelling analysis as well as evidence of the courageous and progressive fiscal, financial, and economic policies pursued by an experienced and competent leader and Minister for Finance. Mr. Speaker, this has provided a platform for accelerated economic growth, social stability, and ultimately to a brighter future for all St. Lucians. Mr. Speaker, this is not braggadocio, but is supported by the available empirical evidence. Mr. Speaker, reports from the IMF, the World Bank, ECCB, CDB, and the Ministry of Finance show that St. Lucia's economy has recovered, is robust, and continues to be resilient. Hence, Mr. Speaker, it is a sad state of affairs when members of the opposition has now taken to openly criticizing the reputable international and regional financial institutions, including, Mr. Speaker, the governor of the ECCB. It is well known, Mr. Speaker, that these financial institutions provide objective and impartial information on the performance of St. Lucia's economy. Mr. Speaker, this shows the level of desperation of the opposition as they try to deflect, distort, and deceive St. Lucians by utilizing the strategy of spreading disinformation, fake news, political spin, and propaganda. The calculated strategy of attempting to crowd out good news with bluster, falsehood, and downright lies is backfiring. Mr. Speaker, as the good people of St. Lucia see right through them, they are extremely transparent in this regard. Mr. Speaker, when I expect the leader of the opposition on his feet, I anticipate one of two approaches. One, that he avoids commending the Minister for Finance on this brilliant performance, or he may want to speak about the projected performance of one of the imaginary islands that he and Theo Aking wanted to build in the Atlantic Ocean near St. Lucia. Because, Mr. Speaker, the estimates as it relates to St. Lucia's performance suggest the absolute antithesis of what the leader of the opposition and his apostles have been saying outside of this honorable house. Mr. Speaker, it's one thing to play politics and engage in banter But it is quite another thing, and indeed disingenuous, to misrepresent the performance of the economy of St. Lucia and to insult the truth of the work of this government. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, I caution the leader of the opposition that when he responds to the motion, bear in mind that he is not skilled to confront the Prime Minister and Minister of Finance on the battlefields of economic and financial policies. As his record of bad economic and financial policies, which plunged our country into an economic contraction in 2019, pre-COVID, when the world economy was booming, is well documented, Mr. Speaker. On assuming office on July 26, 2021, the St. Lucia Labour Party government inherited an economy that was essentially comatose. The dashboard of critical economic and financial indicators was flashing and beeping continuously, showing that emergency life support measures were required to revive and resuscitate the economy. We were talking about record public debt, high unemployment, neglected social protection and support programs to vulnerable citizens. Mr. Speaker, what we inherited was a mess. The economy, which had already entered into recession pre-COVID in 2019, with negative growth of 0.7%, recorded a catastrophic contraction of 24.4% in 2020. An economic collapse of monumental proportions, which impacted the lives of all St. Lucians in a very profound way, Mr. Speaker. And this information can be found on page 104 of the 2023 Economic and Social Review, Mr. Speaker. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, our fiscal and debt ratios skyrocketed, with a primary deficit of 7.8% and an overall deficit of 11.6% in fiscal year 2020-2021. That's on page 126 of the 2023 Economic and Social Review. Mr. Speaker, the level of outstanding payables skyrocketed to reach a peak of 180 million. These figures, however, do not give the true picture of the liabilities of the country, as significant debt was incurred through contractual commitments on the PPP arrangements, including road projects, Cayman Health City, and debts owed under other contractual commitments, for example, the St. Jude's Hospital Reconstruction Project. Mr. Speaker, this situation was compounded by the massive borrowing undertaken by the UWP, increasing the debt to almost $4.3 billion in 2021, from $3.1 billion in 2016. And again, Mr. Speaker, the page is page 129 in the 2023 Economic and Social Review. Mr. Speaker, between 2019 and 2021, the public debt increased by a staggering almost $800 million. The public debt to GDP had soared from 60.4% of GDP in 2019 to 93.2% of GDP in 2020. That's on page 129 of the 2023 Economic and Social Review. Mr. Speaker, much of the lending by the multilateral institutions, for example, World Bank and CDB, was to provide support to the citizens who were profoundly affected by the pandemic. Mr. Speaker, social safety nets and protection were given limited support, resulting in many people having to endure tremendous suffering during this period. The UWP government continued its spree of wasteful, inefficient, and questionable expenditures on construction projects to their favored contractors. These projects, Mr. Speaker, were of limited value and impact and wasted money unnecessarily, including the purchase of vaccines, which we have not received up to now, Mr. Speaker. Indeed, fiscal abomination and mismanagement, which were two of the hallmarks of the Chasney-led UWP government, continued unabated during the COVID period leading up to the general elections of July 26, 2021. And the member for Choiseul comes in this house and try to chastise this government about the people of this country. Let us see. the facts. Between 2019 and 2021, the unemployment rate increased by 5 percentage points to 21.9%. And the youth unemployment went up to 37%, demonstrating that the policies of the Chasney-led UWP administration was simply not working. And those figures can be found on page 124 of the 2023 Social and Economic Review. Mr. Speaker, while the Chasney-led government tried their best to delay the calling of the elections, attempting to use COVID as an excuse, the pressure exerted by the people forced them to call the general elections on July 26, 2021. It is to be noted, Mr. Speaker, that they had entered the 6th year of government. This was unprecedented and had never happened during the electoral history of St. Lucian democracy. Mr. Speaker, it was very clear that the leader of the opposition saw the writing on the wall, and the people dislodged them from the corridors of power to end the suffering and look up to the St. Lucia Labour Party for honest purpose and compassion. Because they know and they can depend on the St. Lucia Labour Party administration to give them bread, justice, and freedom. So, Mr. Speaker, given that the leader of the opposition left us what is called a malporté, a calmaja, manger cochon in government, we were faced with the monumental task of taking the economy off life support and restructuring and transforming the economy to revive and accelerate economic growth through sound economic policies and implementing people-centered policies to improve the livelihoods, in particular vulnerable groups, who are in particular the lower income strata. Our government, guided by the principles of bread, freedom, and justice, did not see these people as mendicants, Mr. Speaker. We did not see them as mendicants, but as people who genuinely needed the support and social protection to improve their lives given their social circumstances. Mr. Speaker, in accordance with the prescripts of the new administration, fresh policies were formulated with the central objective of enhancing the quality of life for the people of St. Lucia. We considered various policy options for the years 2021 to 2026. Mr. Speaker, in the context of addressing the necessities of macroeconomic stability and the challenges related to reconstruction and development, we were confronted with a trilemma of restoring fiscal and debt sustainability, accelerating economic growth, and implementing people-centered policies based on our mantra of putting people first. I now wish to look at our government's scorecard as we have just passed 3.5 years in government. This scorecard will be evidence-based and not like the UWP surrogates led by the leader of the opposition who are spreading wild propaganda, misinformation, and disinformation, attempting to mama-guide the people of this country. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, in the same way that a doctor uses a CBC, a complete blood count, to gain an insight into the state of health of a patient, I shall use the ratios to gain an insight into the performance of the current Minister for Finance. And therefore, I now turn to the review of our projected outturn compared to the budget for fiscal year 2024-2025, Mr. Speaker. In so doing, it is always very important to understand the context, assumptions, and risk for these numbers, Mr. Speaker. In examining the context of this year's estimates, it is important to review the revised fiscal outturn for the fiscal year 2024-2025, which ends on March 31st, 2025, or next week, Monday, Mr. Speaker. In this regard, I wish to refer honorable members, Mr. Speaker, to the budget summary, as this represents the consolidated position of government at a macro and strategic level. This is captured on page Roman numeral 5 of the 2025-2026 estimates of revenue and expenditure, Mr. Speaker. I shall be comparing the revised positions of government with the budgeted numbers for that fiscal year, starting with revenue, Mr. Speaker. The projected outturn for total recurrent revenue is $1,492,477,082, an increase of $17,151,282 over the budget estimates of $1,475,295,800, reflecting the buoyancy of revenues, Mr. Speaker. Of note, Mr. Speaker, the projected outturn for tax revenues, which reflects the level of economic activity, is almost $34 million, or 2.6% higher than the budgeted figure for fiscal year 2024-2025. A review of the table recurrent revenue by object classification shows that the largest of tax revenue is excises, in which the value-added tax accounts for the lion's share. The reference is page Roman numeral 7 of the estimates, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the projected revenue outturn for excises is projected just above budget at $712.3 million. The second largest tax category is taxes on income and profits, which is projected to be $8.9 million above budget at $334.1 million. It is to be noted, Mr. Speaker, that while accounting for the third largest share, taxes on international trade and transaction is projected to be $20.7 million above budget. Mr. Speaker, these figures not only show that all tax categories perform well in terms of being above budget, it also shows, more importantly, Mr. Speaker, that the economy performs well as revenues are positively correlated with economic activity. So, Mr. Speaker, there is dynamism in the local economy. Our non-tax revenue was, however, lower, Mr. Speaker, by around $16.8 million due to lower projected revenues from voluntary transfers other than grants compared to the budget. The reference here is again page Roman numeral 7 of the estimates, Mr. Speaker. I now go to expenditure. On the expenditure front, the total current primary expenditure is projected at $1,117,346,762. $43.5 million higher than the budgeted figure of $1,073,823,630. The major drivers of the increase in the current primary balance were wages and salaries, which were over budget by $35.6 million, and transfers, which were over budget by $28.6 million. Mr. Speaker, these numbers reflect the increases in wages and allowances that government paid to public officers. It is noted, Mr. Speaker, that 6% was granted for the fiscal years 2022, 2023 to 2024, 2025, and another 7% for the fiscal years 2025, 2026 to 2027, 2028. Government has settled a 6% back pay for the period 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, which cost $32 million, which, Mr. Speaker, was tax-free. It gets even better, Mr. Speaker. The government, led by the honorable member for Castries East, will commence payment of an additional 2% for the fiscal year 2025-2026 in April of this year. The increase in transfers was also attributed to the wage increases that government had to pay to statutory bodies which rely on subventions from the government, as well as the lump sum payment of $500 to pensioners. In addition, Mr. Speaker, government had to transfer $10 million to the medical complex and $8 million to WASCO to settle some urgent liabilities. This government, Mr. Speaker, is dealing with the business of the country in a very positive way, in a very calculated fashion, which definitely exhibits the competence of the Minister for Finance. Mr. Speaker, unlike the previous government which agreed to a wage settlement and never paid the increases, this government honors its wage and other liability obligations. In fact, during the COVID period, members will recall that the then Prime Minister, who is now leader of the opposition, he was Minister for Finance, informed the public officers that his government had run out of money and proposed that public officers be paid subsistence wages and to pay the difference by government instruments, namely government bonds and government bills. His priority at the time, Mr. Speaker, was to engineer a construction boom and use the government's cash flow to pay contractors instead. He called it shovel-ready projects, Mr. Speaker, which failed miserably as St. Lucia recorded the largest contraction in its history and one of the largest contractions in the entire world.
That's true.
Therefore, Mr. Speaker,
That's true.
it's okay to criticize,
Bad management.
but don't try to misrepresent the performance of the Minister for Finance and the performance of the government. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, this wage proposal of the then Prime Minister was strongly rebuffed by public officers who had already agreed to forego the increases negotiated by his government. It is to be noted that our government, led by the honorable member for Cassis East, had to pay the wage increases, Mr. Speaker, negotiated by the former administration, led by the leader of the opposition. And you criticize this government? You criticize the Minister for Finance? This time around, Mr. Speaker, our government has paid all of the back pay entitlements to public officers and is honoring will pay increases in accordance with the collective agreements. This policy, Mr. Speaker, shows the value we place on our public officers and is in keeping with our philosophy of putting people first. The increases in expenditures on wages and salaries and transfers were partially offset by expenditure on goods and services, which is projected to be 20.7 million below budget. Mr. Speaker, we, the St. Lucia Labour Party, emerged out of the trade union movement. And we have always been sensitive to the plight of government workers and workers across the length and breadth of this island. Capital expenditure by government, which was budgeted at 280.1 million, is projected at 217.1 million, reflecting lower implementation of the budget than planned in 2024-2025, and also lower than actual capital expenditure of 288.5 million in 2023-2024. It is to be noted, Mr. Speaker, that this is an area where we need to improve, and the Prime Minister and Minister for Finance has taken steps by inter alia establishing a project implementation unit. Mr. Speaker, numbers don't lie, and the numbers in the budget show that the government is moving in the right direction, as illustrated by key critical fiscal dashboard indicators. The first I would like to highlight, Mr. Speaker, is the primary balance. The primary balance, Mr. Speaker, is an important indicator of fiscal prudence because it reflects a government's ability to manage its finances without relying on additional borrowing to cover ongoing expenses. By excluding interest payments on existing debt, the primary balance highlights whether a government's current revenue streams are sufficient to cover its operational costs and capital investments. This shows if the government is operating sustainably, Mr. Speaker. Let us now look at the performance in fiscal year 2024-2025. Mr. Speaker, I refer again to the budget summary page 5, Roman numeral 5 of the estimates. Mr. Speaker, while there's a primary balance of 17.6 million was budgeted, the projected outturn is far more favorable. A primary surplus of approximately 77 million is projected, 59.4 more than the budgeted figure. I indicated why the primary balance is an important indicator of fiscal health. The next key fiscal indicator I would like to focus on is the current balance of the government's fiscal position. This is an important indicator of fiscal prudence because it shows whether a government can sustainably finance its day-to-day operations using its current revenues without resorting to borrowing or depleting reserves. Mr. Speaker, a positive current balance means that the government's recurring income exceeds its recurring expenses, a sign of stable financial management. Moreover, Mr. Speaker, maintaining a current surplus provides fiscal space for future investments in priority areas of the government. In this area, Mr. Speaker, the current surplus, which was budgeted at 158.9 million, came in lower, but it was still significant at just under 141 million. Mr. Speaker, this lower than budgeted performance is attributable to the considerable back pay of over 30 million made by the government to public officers. It is to be noted, Mr. Speaker, that our government inherited a current deficit. Note I said a current deficit of 142.4 million in fiscal year 2021-2022. The reference page again, Mr. Speaker, is 125 of the 2023 Economic and Social Review. The final indicator that I would like to mention, Mr. Speaker, is the overall balance of government. The overall balance is a crucial indicator of fiscal prudence because it provides a comprehensive view of a government's fiscal position, reflecting both its operational performance and its debt servicing obligations. It also includes interest payments, which are not captured in the primary balance. The overall balance, Mr. Speaker, serves as a key indicator of a government's financial discipline and long-term fiscal sustainability. In terms of budget performance, Mr. Speaker, the overall balance of the government was budgeted at 215 million. Mr. Speaker, the projected outturn is, however, far more favorable, 147.9 million. The overall deficit as a percentage of GDP is projected at 2% compared to a budgeted figure of 2.9%. We therefore performed better than the budget, Mr. Speaker, and had to borrow less than we planned. Mr. Speaker, while there is no uniform standard for a prudent level of the overall fiscal deficit, it is generally recognized that small island developing economies are required to borrow to finance their capital investment programs to provide impetus to the growth, to the future growth and development of the country. An overall deficit level of 2 to 3% is considered reasonable for a country which has significant investment needs, such as St. Lucia. To put this into context, Mr. Speaker, our government inherited an overall deficit of 287.6 million in fiscal year 2021-2022. The reference page is again 125 of the 2023 Economic and Social Review. Given that the overall deficit was narrower than what was planned in the budget, Mr. Speaker, the net financing requirement of the government was reduced from the budgeted amount of 307.9 million to the projected outturn of 234.5 million. Of that amount, Mr. Speaker, 197.2 million was from external borrowing, while 47.3 million came from treasury bills and bonds. Mr. Speaker, the Minister for Finance is on course. He is not even in the tolerance limit of being on track, he's on the center line. The final matter contained in the budget summary, which I would like to mention, Mr. Speaker, is debt servicing, which comprises two components, namely interest payments, which form part of current expenditure and is included in both the current balance and the overall balance of central government, and principal repayments, which are not classified as expenditure, but are a financing item in the budget. Mr. Speaker, the projected expenditure for interest payments in fiscal year 2024-2025 is 224.8 million, 7.7 million below the budgeted amount for 2024-2025 of 232.5 million. Similarly, Mr. Speaker, the projected outturn for principal repayments was 6.3 million below the budget estimate of 92.9 million. Mr. Speaker, having reviewed the fiscal report of the government, it is clear that the Prime Minister and Minister for Finance has met and surpassed all of his key targets in the budget. Mr. Speaker, I am sure honorable members would agree that the budget report card is graded excellent, reflecting the fact that the estimates were reasonable and conservative. The member for Cassis East deserves a rousing round of applause for this commendable performance, Mr. Speaker. You can't be the gallery and do that again. Yes, I'll give you an icicle for that. The assumptions underlying the budget, namely economic growth and policy implementation, were highly realistic. The overall risk to the budget continued to be external shocks, climate change, and natural disasters. Mr. Speaker, let me now move into revenue and expenditure for 2025-2026. With this context, Mr. Speaker, let us examine the budget estimates of revenue and expenditure for fiscal year 2025-2026. The major assumption, Mr. Speaker, is GDP growth, which is expected to increase from 7.30 billion in fiscal year 2024-2025 to 7.46 billion, an increase of 2.2%. Mr. Speaker, the economy is growing, and I can recall when the member for Vieux South took over as Minister for Finance in this country, when we crossed that $1 billion budget, Mr. Speaker, leaving at the time a growing economy. He left at the time unemployment, which was at the lowest in 15 years. Wealth was more evenly distributed in this country. And thereafter, things were adulterated, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the reference page for the information I just gave is page 5, Roman numeral 5 of the estimates. This figure is very conservative, considering that the IMF is projecting real GDP growth of 2.8% and inflation of 1.3%. But, Mr. Speaker, we know that this prudent Minister for Finance takes a very cautious approach in formulating his estimates. And therefore, it is expected that our budget performance will, barring any major adverse unforeseen events like external shocks, natural disasters, and climate change, will, like the past 3 budgets, surpass his forecast. Recurrent revenue. Mr. Speaker, total recurrent revenue is forecast at 1.62 billion in fiscal year 2025-2026, an increase of 130 million over the projected outturn of $1.4 billion. Of this amount, Mr. Speaker, 1.45 billion is estimated to come from tax revenue, while 171.9 million is estimated to come from non-tax revenue. Mr. Speaker, the major drivers of tax revenue can be gleaned from the table on recurrent revenue by object classification on page Roman numeral 7 of the estimates. Excises are expected to increase from 712.3 million in fiscal year 2024-2025 to 752.8 million. The impetus for the growth in this category would be the value-added tax, which reflects the expected increase in economic activity. Mr. Speaker, taxes on income and profits, which includes individual income tax as well as corporate income tax, is expected to increase by 24.4 million to 358.5 million. Mr. Speaker, this assumption is reasonable and consistent with the business survey conducted by the St. Lucia Chamber of Commerce, in which the majority of businesses have indicated that they expect sales to increase. We are also aware that this government has provided significant income tax relief to individuals, in which the personal income tax allowance has been increased from $18,000 per annum to $25,000 per annum, effective January 1st, 2023. Mr. Speaker, this policy, while causing a reduction in personal income taxes, as everyone now earning up to $2,083.33 per month are no longer required to pay income taxes, was a necessary policy to help increase the disposable income of the lower income households to cushion their purchasing power in light of the increase in inflation. You see, Mr. Speaker, this is a caring government. Whilst we manage the economy in a very prudent way, we are, according to a Bajan politician, easing the squeeze on the people of this country. But the leader of the opposition and all his apostles all over this island misrepresenting the truth of the situation. Mr. Speaker, the good news now is that inflation has been coming down rapidly. Indeed, the latest figures quoted in the IMF Article 4 consultations for 2025 show inflation as measured by consumer prices, period average, dropping from 4.5% in 2023 to 1.3% in 2024. The IMF Article 4 consultation for 2025 can be found on the IMF website. We do know, however, that inflation is driven by import prices of our major trading partners, and we have little or no control over these prices, Mr. Speaker. Taxes on international trade and transaction is forecast to increase from the revised estimates of $304.5 million in fiscal year 2024-2025 to an estimated $327.4 million in the financial year 2025-2026. Non-tax revenue is expected to increase substantially from the revised estimate of $130.0 million to $171.9 million, owing to increases in revenue from voluntary transfers other than grants. The government expenditure program for the fiscal year 2025-2026 is also sound and in keeping with the growth, stability, and prosperity of the people in this country. Our government continues to ensure that whilst we facilitate the economic growth of the country by consolidating and improving the enabling environment for doing business in St. Lucia, our government will continue to invest in the vital public goods and services that are both necessary and sufficient for the sustained growth and prosperity of our people. In this regard, investment in infrastructure will continue in fiscal year 2025-2026 as we continue to close many of the infrastructural gaps in the economy through inter alia continued investment in roads, ports, water, and energy. The ongoing construction works on our major road arteries will continue on the West Coast, and GPH will continue its investment in port development to improve St. Lucia's competitive position in the cruise business. But you know, Mr. Speaker, after the former government had SLASPA to borrow so much money for an airport redevelopment, SLASPA was already leveraged. And SLASPA was in no position to have borrowed substantial sums to go and undertake port development. No, I will not try to teach you, I will not try to teach the leader of the opposition. I am not certified to teach preschoolers, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is important to note that government most recently agreed to a loan not exceeding US $22,822,181 to finance the upgrade of the infrastructure at the John Compton Dam and enhance the supply of potable water to homes, businesses, and communities throughout St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. The project will, when completed, help to increase the water supply to the north of the island as the leakages will be reduced. Government will also continue to provide critical public goods, including for citizen security, health, education, and other vitally important social services for the lower income groups in our society. This is what you call putting people first, Mr. Speaker. Having outlined the overarching principles, priorities, and general areas, our government will continue to give key focus in the new fiscal year on some very important aspects of building the economy, Mr. Speaker. The total budgeted expenditure for the 2025-2026 fiscal year is $2.1 billion. Or to be more precise, Mr. Speaker, $2,057,519,900. I believe this is the first time that our national budget has exceeded $2 billion. This is a major achievement, Mr. Speaker, as it shows that our economy is now poised for sustained growth and development. It is also important to note that resource allocations are efficient and effective and will redound to the benefit of the people of this country. Unlike the previous administration, which practiced all types of wastages, all types of papi show was going on in this country. Instead of focusing resources on helping the most vulnerable, you all were just embracing your trickle-down economics, which has been a palpable failure all over the world, Mr. Speaker. They practiced that as a fine art when they were in government. But this Minister of Finance knows that he needs to be prudent. And he took that responsibility as the custodian of the resources of this country and is extremely judicious and prudent in the expenditure of the funds of the taxpayers. Mr. Speaker, every dollar contained in the estimate is aimed at providing public value to the people of this country. Mr. Speaker, in the interest of time, I shall engage in more rapid navigation. But before I go to the last segment, I want to look at fiscal and debt sustainability. I wish to now assess, Mr. Speaker, whether the budget presented by our esteemed Prime Minister and Minister for Finance is consistent with fiscal and debt sustainability. The estimate provides details of revenue and recurrent expenditure for fiscal years 2026, 2027, and 2027, 2028. If you look beyond that, beyond 2025, 2026, you will see 2026, 2027, 2027, 2028. Estimates are not, however, provided for capital expenditure, and therefore, this analysis is restricted to the current surplus of government. Mr. Speaker, the projected recurrent revenue for fiscal year 2026-2027 is $1.6 billion, while recurrent expenditure is forecast at $1.4 billion, reflecting a recurrent surplus of $200 million. In fiscal year 2027-2028, recurrent revenue is again projected at $1.6 billion, while recurrent expenditure is again forecast at $1.4 billion, resulting in a recurrent surplus of $200 million. These figures, Mr. Speaker, show that our fiscal policies are consistent with a medium-term path of fiscal and debt sustainability. Now I go to one of my favorite parts of it, the capital expenditure. I wish to highlight, Mr. Speaker, some key projects that are critically important for the transformation.
Remember, you have 15 minutes left. You have 15 minutes left.
I will overshoot, but momentarily. Future growth, development, and benefit of our people, Mr. Speaker. The recent format and presentation of the budget estimates, as the member for Beaufort South said, was quite different this year. But I realized that the recent format and presentation of the budget estimates classifies project expenditure as capital project expenditure and capital recurrent expenditure. The total project expenditure for the budget is 478.4 million, of which 302.6 million is allocated for capital expenditure and 175.8 million is allocated for recurrent expenditure. Mr. Speaker, this classification essentially differentiates what is truly investment in the sense of building the capital stock of the country and non-investment projects which are not capital in nature, but are projects. The Department of Infrastructure, Mr. Speaker, I realize that it received on the head 43 the largest allocation of 147.2 million, reflecting government's continuing and sustained priority on infrastructure. This is in recognition of the fact that major infrastructure projects are multi-year, given their size and complexity. The reference for this information is page 954 of the draft estimates. The West Coast Road is allocated the sum of 30.3 million. We are aware of the significant delays, but when completed, Mr. Speaker, intense work has been undertaken there on the West Coast. These projects will contribute significantly to improving the road infrastructure in St. Lucia. The government has also allocated a sum of 8.2 million towards the reconstruction of the Shock Bridge. Reconstruction in recognition of the importance of this bridge as a connector to traffic coming to and from the north of the island via the Sir Julian Hunt Highway, the busiest section of the road. But listen to this, Mr. Speaker. This project was unfortunately removed from the original list of projects that were to be funded under the Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project, DVRP. The former administration did not see the importance of repairing this bridge and gave priority to construction of human resource centers. While these may be important community project initiatives, Mr. Speaker, the mind boggles as to how these projects contribute to disaster vulnerability reduction. You see, Mr. Speaker, we have projects to reduce vulnerability, but it is taken away to do other things, Mr. Speaker, that's not in consonance with disaster reduction. There are significant allocations for many road projects throughout the length and breadth of St. Lucia in recognition of the major infrastructure deficit that our country faces. And Mr. Speaker, I am optimistic that in the aftermath of this budget, that the people of Labrie-Auger will see the resurfacing of the Labrie Village roads, they will see the resurfacing of the Auger road, they will see the construction of the Catten Road, which was mentioned last year in the estimates, Mr. Speaker. We have been carrying a cross, Mr. Speaker. We have been carrying that cross for a very long time. But we hear the opposition and the acolytes all of a sudden, they back on it again. People ain't eating roads. Mr. Speaker, they said that we were against the government building roads because we say they were not eating roads. This was true, Mr. Speaker. We said that people ain't eating roads. At the time, the choice was to feed the people or build the roads. They had a choice, and most of the monies that were given by those financial institutions was to provide income support. And we are still of that view that you should have given income support to the people that were gasping for air and sucking salt during COVID. You all had no compassion on the most vulnerable. There are persons who are doing well that fell through the cracks because they lost their job. You all didn't care with that. You all continue your merry way. And then you all in opposition, they're trying to behave as if you all are champions of the plight of poor people. Since when? Concern and love for poor people can never be a product of spontaneous combustion. Never. And therefore all your arguments are destroyed by self-combustion. The situation today, Mr. Speaker, is totally different. The choice is not about building roads or feeding the people. It is both. When we do infrastructure in Auger, for example, or in Labrie Village, the people from the communities, they extract economic benefits from them. It's distributed throughout the constituency. So yes, they are eating the roads. They are eating the sidewalks. Yes. But incidentally, the money given by those multilateral institutions was for supporting the people and not for roads, Mr. Leader of the Opposition. I shall simply list the other roads, Mr. Speaker, together with the allocations. Road improvement and maintenance project, 8 million. National Roads Rehabilitation Program, 24.2 million. Grosile and Castries, North Road Project, 9.9 million. McDenry Road Project, 6.2 million. And rehabilitation of Majomel, 2.1 million. Mr. Speaker, the government continues to move forward and address the road infrastructure in this country. We had to first stabilize the economy after that major contraction, move to fiscal consolidation, and now we have passed the $2 billion mark, which means we are growing the economy. And the more we grow the economy, the more opportunities we provide to our people. The Department of Economic Development, Head 56, Mr. Speaker. I will just briefly allude to the importance of the St. Jude's Hospital. You know, people are no longer on the streets of my constituency speculating about the opening of St. Jude's. It's a foregone conclusion, Mr. Speaker, that St. Jude's shall be open to provide relief to the people that have waited for so long. And we have returned to the original buildings to complete it, Mr. Speaker. And $38.6 million have been allocated for that project. People from everywhere, Mr. Speaker, are going to celebrate. We also recognize the impact of smaller constituency projects that are beneficial to communities. And the funding provided by the Taiwanese government is particularly important. And we continue to thank the government and people of Taiwan for their generous assistance and support. This year, an allocation of $21.9 million is proposed for the Constituency Development Program. Mr. Speaker, in 2016, a Prime Minister by the name of Kenny D. Anthony gave 33 contractors from my constituency an opportunity to execute contracts to improve the infrastructure of Labrie. They had their signed contracts. In comes the man of compassion, he claims, and did not allow not one contractor to execute the contract. Not one. Wicked. So when we return, I have been trying to play catch up. The people with the contracts, and we are trying to do it. I have done a number of roads. And I know that the Prime Minister understands my plight and will, of course, remove that burden on me by ensuring that every one of those contractors remaining are able to execute their contract and give me room to address new areas. And then they want people to re-elect them, you know. They have candidates criticizing the Labour Party government, you know. But let me tell you, no matter how determined any one of you could be, we are no less determined to ensure that the red flag flies here. Mr. Speaker, we are going to continue on the Head 53 Department of Health with universal health care.
Member, you have 5 minutes left.
They talk about national insurance scheme. Mr. Speaker, it is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for me to land on time. There is thunder showers at the field. I'll have to enter a holding pattern. I cannot land at this juncture. And I'm calling on air traffic to give me appropriate instructions so that to increase my time.
Member for Castle Central.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the member for Library be afforded a further 20 minutes to complete his contribution to the discourse.
Thank you very much.
Member, we have to put the motion. Honourable members, the question is that Standing Order 3210 be suspended to allow the member for Library an additional 20 minutes to complete his presentation. And now put the question, as many as that opinion say aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Leave is granted.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Maybe in anticipation of the eyes being above the nose that I return to the microphone. But I want to thank honorable members for allowing me time to conclude my presentation. So, Mr. Speaker, in terms of education, no, before I go to education, I was talking about universal health care, Mr. Speaker. They have been talking about national insurance. Whilst they stopped the implementation of UHC, they have been talking about national health insurance. They never said how they were going to finance national insurance. They had no plan. And they remained in government and did absolutely nothing. And you know, right now in the wilderness, they're saying the same thing again, national health insurance. We are going to continue with the implementation of UHC to ensure that we protect the people of this country and to give them the best possible opportunity to remain healthy and to live a longer life and to contribute more effectively and efficiently to nation building and national development, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, at this juncture, I would like to address myself to a few issues dealing with my ministry. But I will not go into any policy issues in this debate. But I just want to indicate how my ministry is assisting in the forward movement of the government. In pursuit of our economic and social recovery, we have remained clear of ideological battles. Our foreign policy is geared towards creating an improved framework for us to mobilize resources for the true and real development of our country, including the development of strategic alignments with non-traditional countries. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of External Affairs, International Trade, Civil Aviation, and Diaspora Affairs assists many line ministries in sourcing external funding. But, Mr. Speaker, I will not seek your permission to even briefly capture some of the undertakings of significance of my ministry during the period under review, because it will take more than 40 days and 40 nights to conclude. However, Mr. Speaker, I wish to indicate that between 2021 and 2025, a total of $114,190,940 was spent in recurrent expenditure on my ministry. However, via our external relations, which I am clothed with the important trust to administer, we have attracted well over $1 billion for the development of St. Lucia, whether in the form of concessionary financing, grants, scholarships, etc., Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on page Roman numeral 11, head 45 of the 2025-2026 estimates, an amount of $34,875,600 were allocated for recurrent expenditure for the Ministry of External Affairs, International Trade, Civil Aviation, and Diaspora Affairs. Out of this amount of $44.9 million, $5.8 million is for the payment of grants and contributions on behalf of St. Lucia. The reference page is 922 of the 2025-2026 estimates. And so the ministry is left with approximately $29.1 million for its operations both at home and abroad. And that's not just for the Ministry the Department of External Affairs. It is for international trade. It is for civil aviation and for diaspora affairs. That is nowhere in comparison to education or health, Mr. Speaker. But despite the limited available resources, we have to survey multiple spheres and to assist the government's effort in moving forward. Hence, Mr. Speaker, it is a gross misconception to consider the Ministry of External Affairs as a cost center when major developments in the country are initiated, negotiated, and secured by this ministry. I just want to give you an example of what we do with the 5.8 million we pay regional and international organizations on behalf of the entire country, whether in health, in agriculture, in other areas. Annually, we pay the Organization of American States $71,727. I repeat, annually, we pay to the OAS $71,727. Over the period 2022 to 2024, the following are the benefits to St. Lucia. 384 scholarships amounting to over $2 million US. Amounting to over $2 million US. US $100,000 for digital enhancement project for MSME. As of 2024, US $280,000 were expended for an integrated approach to water and watershed management using innovative solutions and promoting financial mechanisms. 190 million US were disbursed last year, and of course this year the additional 90,000 will be disbursed. In 2024, the OAS facilitated travel for at least 40 St. Lucians to attend different training in a variety of countries in our hemisphere. For example, Barbados, Brazil, Colombia, Costa Rica, Greece, Panama, and Trinidad and Tobago. So now we must be very clear in our minds that what we pay to international or regional entities, we benefit much more. When we have to seek exemptions to allow hybrid into our countries to give the people a break, we have to go to COTED, we have to go to CARICOM based on treaty obligations. We cannot stay here and do not attend to our business. We must go, we must travel. But you have people who call them cocktail ambassadors, and I'll tell you, and you, leader of the opposition, you are prime minister, sometimes when you spend a whole day back and forth in different meetings, different bilaterals, you are so tired to go to any, cocktail in the evening. And sometimes all officers are saying, look, this one should go or that one should go. But we show our face despite being burdened. So I am not saying so just for members of this honorable house, but to tell the people of this country that we are working very hard, and the Ministry of External Affairs must be commended for its efforts, and it's not a burden, because for every penny we spend, we get significantly more than that. The National Stadium is through our external relations. The Wellness Center is through our external relations. The OKEU Hospital, it is a product of our own external relations.
Member, you have 15 minutes left.
The Dennery Water Project, it is because of our external relations. And if we have to borrow to implement those projects, we will not be able to do it. We will not be able to do it. But we must understand that we must pay greater attention to financing our external relations to achieve greater benefits. Because what we do is to match our basic need with greater possibilities. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I want to address myself to the business of my constituency. And I want to thank my constituents for making me the instrument of their wishes. And I thank them, Mr. Speaker, for their continued support for me and the St. Lucia Labour Party. The constituency of Labrie-Auger has always supported and will continue to support the Labour Party because we can relate to the ideals and philosophy of the Labour Party of bread, justice, and freedom. We are positive. We are a positive, resilient, and development-oriented people, and the Labour Party promotes this. We have progressed despite the targeted neglect of successive UWP administration. We built our Labrie Cooperative Credit Union to create a response to we not getting scholarships and we not getting different benefits out there. Our credit union responded to that. The Labrie Development Foundation to chart our own independent costs because government must play its part, but the people of any constituency are responsible for their development. The true and real development of any constituency must be undertaken by the people. Government must play its part. There must never be an over-reliance on government. And Mr. Speaker, I alluded to the issue of all of those contracts being stopped, but that's not the first time. In 1987, a representative who was a non-Laborian crossed this floor in 1987, spent 5 years. So we had an opportunity to see what it is. For somebody who sits in a UWP government, we had an opportunity to see live and direct what they would deliver. Was our development advanced in any way? No, Mr. Speaker. When elections was approaching in 1992, they planted electric poles and they brought pipes and dropped them on the ground. Say they're going to bring electricity to the people of Béwanger and Lao, the Labrie bypass, etc. The UWP won the elections in 1992. Instead of running the lines and bringing electricity to the people of Lahore, Béwanger, Labrie bypass, and other areas without, they gave a contract to an individual to uproot every single pole. Every single pole. And took every length of pipe and left with it. And you come in and ask Laborians to vote for that type of injustice? Absolutely not. But when the Star of Freedom rose in this country in 1997, when the member for Vieux South as Prime Minister entered the corridors of power with lightning rapidity, electricity reached Lahore, Béwanger, the Labrie bypass. And he brought water to the affected areas, including Majomel. And you know what, Mr. Speaker? The Prime Minister, because they have been deprived at the time, he gave them free water connections, Mr. Speaker. Because pipe-borne water, he felt at the time, was important. Not going out there and falling in some cascou, according to them, some precipice. You know, Bobo was the order of the day. People going in all kind of places looking for water. You know, it's muddy. They are taking mercurochrome was the main item for sale because they have to put mercurochrome on that before it gets infected. Today you go to those areas, there is no Bobo. No, there's no Bobo. There's no Bobo. Not even in a book you see in Bobo these days. Because we have moved forward in a very disciplined way, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, similarly, the Labrie market, under the former Prime Minister, the member for Vieux South, conceptualized the market, funded the market. In the estimates, in 2015, 2016, he put the money, fully funded by the Taiwanese government. In 2016, we were still not ready after the fiscal year of 2015, 2016, but we were ready. We had a community consultation, ready to construct the market. They stopped the market they gave specific instructions to stop the market. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to tell you today that this market under this Prime Minister and Minister for Finance is completed. And on the 6th of April at 3 p.m., we will have the opening ceremony. It will be a day of celebration, Mr. Speaker. It will be a day of prayer. It will be a day of solidarity. So all progressives are invited to that great celebration. But, Mr. Speaker, some of the roads that we have begun to address that were stopped by the leader of the opposition and his gang, the road opposite the Auger Catholic Church near the Aegis family, road near Gabriel Maximin, road opposite the Ballis at Derbois, road near the Charles family at Derbois, road near the Derbois Junction, road near Mr. Kelly in Pom, road near the Plummer family at Pom, road near Mariana Palto at Pom. And this is a lady who looked forward to executing that contract. And lo and behold, Mr. Speaker, she went to the land of silence. And she never saw the road. Her son was the one who executed part of that road. The road near Bokowen at Béwanger is completed. The road near Curtis Rene completed. Road near the Alfred and Dixon family completed. Road near Labrie Jetty completed. Road at Laguas near Blas completed. Mr. Speaker, after this budget, and I did it with my simple allocations, no preferential treatment, Mr. Speaker. It is just how the Minister for Finance just deal with every constituency. After this budget, I am hoping to complete the balance of the roads that were stopped. The main Pom Road from Plumber's Disco to Lady Vivian, road near the Popo, road near Mafia, road near the Sadu family, road near the Passad family, road near the Vitalis family, road near Adonis, road at Béwanger, one road at Laho, road near Gloricidaba, road at Gentil, Majomel Minor Road, the Dudu Road, the Valier Road, road near Mike Leon's Advance, road at Olibo, and T2 Road, Nafan Road, road near Dale's Garage, road near the Black Bay playing field, road near Madevid at Auger, road near the Garib at Derbois. There is also a pressing need for the road leading to the ABC Fund House to be repaired and the roof. And you know, they have a sign on it as a hurricane shelter, you know. But the roof is bad, and I'm asking the government to please intervene in assisting the Labrie constituency in repairing that road. And the completion of the Chitoli Noel Road opposite the Auger Combined School. And speaking of roads, it is only reasonable to expect that Labrie will get its share of roads. And I'll tell you, all the roads that I've mentioned there, we are even quarter way in terms of the needs of my constituency. Because nothing was done for 30 years of bad UWP rule. We celebrated 50 years last year as a separate constituency. 30 of those 50 years were under the United Workers' Party, where our development was frozen. Nothing in terms of infrastructure.
Member, you have 5 minutes left.
Mr. Speaker, after budget, we will continue the upgrade of the Desmond Collimer Park. We will deal with the upgrade of Auger playing field. We are well advanced in the designs for the Olibo playing field, Mr. Speaker. In terms of the Auger multipurpose court and center, we are in active negotiations with some landowners, and we will do our best. The sidewalk at Auger, I recall, Mr. Speaker, the dangers on that road from Black Bay to the school and from the school to St. Jude's. And I have been begging for that intervention. Today, I am pleased to inform this Honorable House that I have taken care of 50% of the sidewalks from Black Bay to the Auger Combined School. And we have to do the piece from the Auger Combined School going up to join the one by the Wally Gap, Mr. Speaker. The Library Village roads, in preparation for paving, we are now addressing the sidewalks in the library area. And Mr. Speaker, it's just a pity that I cannot go through the whole list of things that only the Labour Party has done for our people. But we can never catch up with matters of development when 30 on almost unbroken years of UWP rule, just keeping the business of our constituency behind. But I know God is good. We will need another term, not a break and coming back, because there cannot be a break in purpose and the agenda of development. We need the progressive policies that we have introduced to reach maturity to give birth to proper results. And make no mistake about it, I will ensure that I play my part in this Labour Party government under the leadership of Honorable Philip Joseph Ear to return to power with a resounding victory in this country. Like the Bajans say, every term deserves another. I shall now conclude, Mr. Speaker, because I have approximately 4.5 minutes. I have been timing myself. I want to indicate that the budget meets all the requirements of an excellent budget. Firstly, the budget is aligned with the long-term vision of this government to improve the welfare of our people through addressing the critical infrastructure gaps in the economy and providing important public goods and services that are essential for our security, health, and welfare. The resources of the country funded by our taxpayers are allocated to the areas that drive growth and meet the essential needs of citizens. Second, the projections are realistic, based on sound assumptions and empirical data. Finally, the budget ensures that our expenditures are sustainable over the medium term. Mr. Speaker, since the government's strategy and plans in the area of development are grounded in the country's strategic development priorities, the security concerns of the people of St. Lucia have shaped both its domestic development and its foreign policy. So essentially, its foreign policy is an extension of the domestic policy to build resilience in the economy. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, with unhesitating obedience, I now give my full support to the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the fiscal year 2025-2026. And I end with the chant by the Cuban. La lucha continua. Hasta la victoria siempre venceremos. Thank you. Muchas gracias.